What's going on, everyone, and welcome to HCF Off Season, where the grind don't stop. This is episode 3, and we have an amazing show for you in store today. First, we have the illustrious Ty Patton and myself talking about the NFL schedule release and giving some predictions for some teams' records, even though we're about 3 months away from the season. And then we're going to be ending the show off with a new segment called 2 Minute Offense, where we're going to have 5 different guests come in and talk about their respective sports in 2 minutes. So that'll be fun to watch. You're not going to want to miss that because HCF offseason starts right now. And welcome back. I'm joined by Ty Patton. We are going to be talking about the AFC division first. First of all, though, how is your summer going?
It's going pretty well. I cannot complain. Having a little bit of fun, but very, very happy to be on the show for the first time.
Good. I'm very happy to have you. So, what we did is we each have a division that we are going to take over because either we like just really love that division or we have some hot takes about that division, and then after we're gonna have two separate hot takes. Um, but let's get started with the AFC West with the reigning champion Kansas City Chiefs. Now, I have them going 14-3. They're very good. They've improved. And then I have the Chargers going 8-9. Then third in the division is the Raiders. Now, they had kind of a good season last season for what they had to work with. I have them going 6-11. Now, I think they
Okay,
improved this offseason,
they did.
which is why are they declining in their record? Because everyone else in the AFC got so much better and they play in a tough division. Every
Yep.
division's tough now, but
Oh yeah.
they've improved their defensive line. That's kind of it. Their quarterback, I like Gardner Minshew, but it's still a major question mark. They don't really have a running game. And if you don't really have that talented of a quarterback, what does your good weapons at receiver do for you?
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to say Gardner Minshew hasn't been announced as the starter yet.
He
I want to
hasn't.
say it's still a competition. So I'm right in the same train with you, but I could even see 5-12, maybe 4-11, which is rough.
Interesting.
But you downgrade at running back, in my opinion, from Josh Jacobs to
Absolutely.
Alexander Madison. And Lord Almighty, I can never remember his
Zamir
name.
White.
Zamir White. I actually really like Zamir White. I really think he's a good running back, but I
I
don't
don't.
think he's going to be
He's
the
not a
starter day
starter.
one. Exactly. He
Even
is a
day
third
30,
down
he's not a
power back.
starter.
Yes. Yes. So, I don't see them doing very much. I think Aiden O'Connell's going to come out as a starter week one. I think 5, 6 weeks they struggle. Throw in Gardner. He has a decent run at the end, like he did with Indy, but I don't think the Vegas team is as good as the Indy team is. I think they're going
I
to struggle
totally
late.
agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then coming in last in the division,
Hmm.
this could age
Hmm.
awfully, but I really don't think it will. We have the
Hmm.
Broncos, which I don't think there's much debate in that they will come in fourth, but
Hmm.
it's how bad that I think they will be. I think they will be 1-16.
Wow.
That's really, really bad. I know. I know you have them
Wow.
going a little bit better. You're more
Yep.
of a Nick's believer, which it's not that I don't believe, it's that his supporting cast is just not it. They traded away Jerry Judy. They've like what does he have to work with? Why are they gonna be better than 1-16?
Yeah. Well, so here's the thing. Our buddy Matthew Bracker is going to feel very strongly about the way that
Yes, I'm sorry,
I'm
Matthew.
about to convey this, but um, earlier in February, so months before the draft, when we were doing our original mock draft on the combine, which you can go check out, I am going to plug my show. This
Absolutely.
is the way you got to
Absolutely.
do it. Um, I had Bo Nix going 12 to the Broncos, and everyone said it's ridiculous. Why would you do that? And I was like, well, Bo Nix feels like the Sean Payton candidate. This guy feels like the kind of guy they'd want in the building. And although it was a reach, he does have the arm that a team like that wants, right? I think Nix will fit well. I think the biggest thing, and I'm kind of putting my head in front of the guillotine right now, but I think they're going to be a team to watch out for trade deadline receiver candidate. I think maybe we see a T. Higgins over here.
Well, the
I think
crazy
maybe
thing
we
about
see a,
them,
a receiver that, maybe like one of the Titans. Maybe the Titans have a horrible season. DeAndre Hopkins requests out.
Mm.
Maybe the Raiders have a horrible opening and Devontae Adams says I'm sitting and they
Jacoby
have to
Myers.
trade him.
Yeah.
Jacoby Myers. There are a
Well, the
lot of
crazy
names that I
thing
think they can
about
make a
them,
push
and I
for.
know I said that, oh, you traded away Jerry Judy, I know I pointed that out.
Yep.
But I think their receiving core is actually probably one of the highlights of their team because they also
Yep.
drafted Troy Franklin, Bo Nix's
Who I'm
teammate,
very high on.
and
Very
then
high on.
Marvin Mims. Like,
Yep.
I think that's probably the shining star of that team. And they also brought in Zach Wilson. So, certainly a quarterback competition. But
Yeah, and I'm not the biggest Zach Wilson guy, as you probably already know, but
is anyone?
I think Zach Wilson has a similar play style, at least his college play, to Bo Nix and what he could do and his talent that he had. And
Absolutely.
so I think he's going to be not a father figure, but the kind of guy to show him what to do, how to well actually, maybe Zach Wilson gets in touch, a little phone call to Bo Nix's mom over there. Maybe he is a little father
Team
figure over there
chemistry.
in Denver. But to close it out, this again may be the death of me, but I could realistically see the Broncos as the third seed. I'm not going to say they're a playoff
Wow.
team or anything, ceiling 6-11, but I really think Bo Nix will find his footing. I'm not going to, stand here and tell you he's the best quarterback in the draft or anywhere near that, but I do think he will find his footing. I think he could potentially be QB of the future for them.
I don't disagree with that. This year, I think
Yeah.
I actually have them getting the number one pick, which is ridiculous. But then you get James Pierce, and that team is revived. But we'll talk about that a year from now. And then we're
Yep.
gonna move on to the AFC South, which I chose to be my division to rant about. Now, I have the Texans at the one seed, also going 14-3, just like the Chiefs. I can't, like, there's very few games that I think they really could lose, and that includes the Chiefs in there. It might include the 49ers, I can't remember, but like they've done so much this offseason. Their receiving core, I'm going out on a limb and saying it's the best in the league over the Dolphins, over some of these other teams. It's the best. And then they added so many pieces on defense as well. And I like the head coach, CJ Stroud, as long as he doesn't decline. That's a 14-3 team. But right behind him is the Indianapolis Colts, in my opinion. They're going 13-4. Anthony Richardson
Hmm.
is staying healthy the entire year.
Hmm.
They added Adonai Mitchell, who I'm very high on, to be that wide receiver 3 or even 4 behind Alec Pierce. I don't care. Either way, it's a talented receiving core. And then still, they always have a good defense. And so they're going 13-4. Now,
13. Yeah.
now, I'm very high on the Titans. I think their additions this offseason warrant that. They added Calvin Ridley, Tony Pollard. I like Tyjae Spears. And then on defense, they still have Harold Landry. They added Chidobe Awuzie, L'Jarius Sneed. Like, that is so much. And I like the new head coach. They also added Tyler Boyd. So why is my record for them not going to reflect that? I have them going 7-10 just because like I like them, but kind of for the future, potentially like if they add a front seven piece this upcoming offseason, maybe even trade deadline, then they could be looking at like a 10-win season in 2026, you know. But I'm high on them, just maybe not this year. And then a team I'm
Yep.
really low on. I'm so sorry, Justice. I'm so sorry. I hope I'm wrong for your sake. I do not like the Jaguars this season. They're going 5-12 in my simulation, okay? They start off the season in Miami. That's a loss. Sorry, it's a loss. Um, and it just doesn't get too much easier from there. I think they're in one of the toughest divisions, and at that, I have them going 0-6 in the division, which probably won't happen. They'll probably sneak out at least one game. But
Hmm.
5-12, I know that's awful, but it's just the reality, I think. I'll give you
Okay.
a quick
So,
rebuttal.
yeah,
What did
yeah.
I do
So
wrong?
here's the thing. I am, and I'm going to spoil it. Like, I don't really think there's a need to hold on to it when we're already at this point. One of my hot takes is that the Texans win the AFC, that they are the team to beat in the AFC. I have them even going 15-2. I love the
Wow.
Houston Texans this year. And I do think this is going to end up similarly to how it did last year. A lot of 9-8, 8-9 teams. No team's going to be stout, but I get where you're going with Anthony Richardson and the Colts. And no team's going to be horrible. So, Justice, I don't think the Jags are going 5-12, but they're also not a playoff team. So don't get your hopes up too high.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't argue too much against that. We're going to move on to the AFC North, probably
Yep.
the toughest division in football.
The
I think it's
division in
unanimous.
football. Oh, yeah.
And I have the Ravens as a third seed. Okay. A slight regress from last season, but they did regress a little bit. They're going 12-5 in this. They are winning the AFC North, which is a huge feat. And then I have the Browns going 11-6, making the playoffs. They're getting second. And they're making the playoffs as a 7 seed. So you know what that means. Two of the best teams in the league are missing out on the playoffs just from that division. I have the Pittsburgh Steelers. We know they're not going to have a losing record. We know that. In fact, I think they're going to do much better than that. They're going 10-7. They made a lot of additions, but the reality is it's not enough to compete with some of the other teams in that division. Now, this is probably going to age horribly. And they also,
Oh,
by the
no.
way, do finish with 4-2 in the division, which is higher than the Ravens. They go 3-3 in my opinion. But anywho, the Steelers miss out on the playoffs. And so that leaves the Bengals, who I think are going to be the worst team in this division. I know.
Hmm.
But I have
Still
some
stings.
logical reasoning, okay? Joe Burrow always starts the season bad. He finishes well
Okay.
if he stays healthy, but that's a big if. And he
Yep.
starts the season bad, undeniably. I think T. Higgins and Trey Hendrickson still won out. Maybe that happens at the trade deadline. They lost Joe Mixon. They lost Tyler
Yep.
Boyd. They did add Jermaine Burton, but he's a, I don't know what, late round rookie.
Yep.
And then they lost DJ Reader. They lost Chidobe Awuzie. This defense is nowhere near as good. The offense is not as good. There's nothing to back up that they're going to be better than three of the best teams in the league.
Definitely. I'd
In
love to see Joe Burrow go back to the Super Bowl, but it's not going to happen this year. But second, no. Oh, the Browns are so good and the
It's so
Ravens are
tough in that
so
division,
good.
which
It's
is
so
why I don't
difficult.
think it's crazy to say they'll be last. I don't think
It's
it's
not
crazy
crazy. It's not crazy, but
because
I don't think there's any way they
with
finish with a losing record.
they're still
I don't
finishing
think they
as
will.
a top 20 team, even
Yeah.
though they're getting last in their division, which is crazy.
I'm
But
gonna say their floor is 8-9. I'm gonna say that now.
completely agree. I have them going
Ceiling,
9-8.
ceiling, 12-5.
Uh, no, that's too high.
I think I'll stand by
I'm
12 and
putting
5
my
as their
foot down.
ceiling.
No.
I think I'll stand with it. I think
All
I'll
right.
stand with it. I feel
All right.
confident with it.
All right. Well, we have to move on to the best division of football. No, I'm kidding.
Oh,
The AFC
oh,
East. I'm going to let you take over with that, but really quickly, I'm going to share my records. Now, I'm a Dolphins fan, if anyone didn't know, and I'm not being biased, okay? They are going to get second in the division to the Bills. Bills have done a lot to not be as good, if that makes sense. Their number one receiver right now is a rookie, Keon Coleman, but they're going to squeak it out from the Dolphins. They're both going to finish 12-5, but the Bills will be 5-1 in the division. I believe their only loss is to the Patriots because that's just a Bills loss. And the Dolphins will also be 12-5, like I said. I have the Jets going 8-9. Even if Rodgers gets injured or regresses or whatever, it's still a good team. So I think 8-9 is fair. I know Ty, you're higher. And then I have the Patriots, just an awful roster, being another 1-16 team. I think it's realistic that they get more wins than that. But I mean, I don't think that's outlandish to say that they'll be one and
yeah,
six.
no.
Certainly last, but Ty, go ahead.
All right, so I'm gonna start from the ground and move up because it's gonna be a little dicey as we go.
Okay.
Um, but let's start at the bottom here. I have the Patriots going 3-14.
Okay.
I don't think they're going to be a bad team. I think they're gonna have a lot of close games. I think Drake May is gonna prove himself that he has potential, but I don't think it's gonna happen for them, right? I think they'll struggle a lot. But they have a great receiving core, great team all around. So I think they do good. And here's where we get to a toss up because Nick Cohen, I sent you my predictions last night for
You
this
did.
division, and I changed a little bit.
Okay.
Not a ton, but I did change a little bit. And
As
here's
long
the
as the
thing.
Dolphins make the playoffs.
I am going to lock in the 3 seed as the Miami Dolphins, which I know will ruffle some feathers because they know what's coming down the pipeline when I
Yeah.
say that. But I do have them making the playoffs at 11-6.
Okay.
But this is going to be one of, if not the division in football. This is going to be a huge division in football, and I'll get to my reasoning in a second. But behind them, or in front of them, I should say, number 2 seed, and y'all are gonna know what's coming next. I have the Buffalo Bills in the 2 seed at 11-6 as well. I think they struggle a little bit. No Diggs, no Gabe Davis, but Keon Coleman. I love Keon Coleman. I love that guy. All the PR stuff they're doing for him, like it's winning me over like crazy. That social media team over there needs a raise. And at number 1, this is where we get into the nitty gritty. The New York Jets are going 14-3. The New York
Oh my
Jets are
God.
the team to beat in the AFC East. Last year, I was so high on Aaron Rodgers. I said Aaron Rodgers is going to the Super Bowl. This is another Matthew Stafford in LA, a Tom Brady in Tampa Bay kind of move. And this is the guy.
So
I think this team has a lot going for them. I think they're going to be fantastic this year. And, I know a lot of people discredit it, but let's check back where we are in a couple months and, see what happens. So I'm
absolutely.
pretty confident in that.
All right. Sounds good. Well, that's our AFC predictions. Like you just said, we'll check back in what, December and
Yep.
see how wrong we were. We'll probably make some tweaks on Combine eventually too. But
Yep.
this is our initial reactions to the schedule release. And after this commercial, we're going to be hitting the NFC, so stay tuned.
So, Tyler Brown, right? It says in my notes you're a Oklahoma fan.
That is correct.
So, let me ask you, bud. Is Texas back?
All right, I put on a brave face a lot, but this year, I'm really scared that they are, man. Okay, they just beat Alabama. They're gonna be top 4 in the rankings. And last year, they beat us 48-0.
Yeah.
It was humiliating. We're the Oklahoma Sooners. We were the best ever. We were talk of the town. We had Baker, Kyler, and Jalen 3 years in a row. And now, are we good? I don't know. We haven't won a national title since 2000. We're number 18, I think, and nothing matters, dude.
Sometimes we build up these walls thinking they're impenetrable. But sometimes you have to knock these walls down to build up bigger and stronger ones. And you got to be tough through that. It's hard being an Oklahoma fan at this time, but grass is always going to be greener on the other side of the hill, buddy.
Is it? I cannot live through a Texas national championship. I can't. I'll never recover.
Do you want to talk about Lincoln Riley?
What'd you just say to me?
I just want to know if you want to talk about Lincoln Riley.
And we are back, ready to talk about the NFC, and it's just as spicy. So, starting
Yeah.
off with the NFC North, okay, I'm gonna highlight this division. I have the Detroit Lions going 14-3. Now, that's
Yep.
another 14-3 team in the NFL, and spoiler alert, I have 4 total this year, which is kind of crazy. They're gonna be going 5-1 in the division, in a very tough division at that, because that's how good this team is.
Yep.
And they made it to the NFC Championship last year. We both think they might go a little further than that. And then second in that division is going to be the Green Bay Packers at 11-6, also going 5-1 in the division, but they have a tough schedule. And they do make the playoffs at 11-6, and I think for a good reason. And then I have the Bears going third in that division over the Vikings, going 9-8. Now, if I'm looking at their schedule, I actually have them starting 0-3, and then going on a 5-game win streak, 6-game actually, because Caleb Williams out of the gate, he's not going to be doing amazing, okay? He's going to have to adjust to the NFL a little bit. I think that goes without a doubt. And it's honestly, it is a playoff team, but it's such a tough division, such a tough conference, such a tough league that this year they won't be a playoff team. Next year, absolutely they can be, but 9-8 for me in this. And then I'm sorry, kind of sorry to all the Vikings fans in hitting the field. You know, you have the Timberwolves in the Western Conference Finals right now. Savor that because I think the Vikings are going to be going 4-13. I know,
Wow.
I know. But
Wow.
they lost Kirk Cousins. They're starting JJ McCarthy, who I don't think will be awful by any means. Actually, they're starting Sam Darnold, but um it's just you can't deny that it's a downgrade. And then they lost to Neil Hunter, and everyone else in the division just got significantly better, and they didn't. They did add Aaron Jones. Props to them for
Yep.
that. But I looked at their schedule and like there's not too many games that I think they can win. I think it's like around 4, probably more, maybe more like 6, but they're going last in the division. And then we're gonna move on to the NFC East. Always competitive. But really only amongst 2 teams actually. So we have the Eagles. They are my last 14-3 team.
I thought you were about
I
to say your
think,
last seed, your last NFC East team. I've
oh
had a heart
no.
attack.
No, they are going 14-3. I mean, they're just consistently good. And then they made so many additions this offseason. Saquon Barkley. They brought back, I believe, CJ Gardner-Johnson. They added so many good pieces in the draft as they always do. And then the Cowboys just, it seems like they're consistently the 5 seed in the NFC playoffs. And
Regular
that's going to happen
season
again. They're
monsters.
going to go 12
Regular
and
season
5.
monsters.
They are they're like the Celtics of the NFL in which they are just always good in the regular season and then choke in the playoffs. And so 12-5 for the Cowboys. And then the Commanders, I think they're not going to be that bad. They made a lot of good additions in free agency and
I
the draft.
love Jaden Daniels. I
Absolutely.
love Jaden Daniels.
I don't know if is he going to be the starter day one? Have they announced that?
He should be.
He
I
should be,
doubt
but
he's not.
I mean, I wouldn't argue with if they sat him for a week or two either. You
Yeah,
know?
but Mariota is their only other QB under roster right now.
I guess. I don't know. But I have them going 7-10, which is I think
Okay.
respectable, you know?
Very
The
respectable.
future's looking bright. And
Yep.
then the final spot is the final 1-16 team for me.
Yep.
It is the New York Giants. I think they're right there with the Broncos, arguably even worse than the Broncos or even Patriots as the worst team in the league. They're going 1-16. They don't have a quarterback because I don't like Daniel Jones, Malik Neighbors. Hopefully he gets a quarterback in this upcoming draft, even though none of them are amazing. You know, they're gonna have the number 2 overall pick in this simulation, and hopefully they can capitalize. I think Brian Daboll, if they go 1-16, would certainly be out of there. Um,
Unfortunately, because he had that one great year 2 years ago. But
he did.
yeah, it would have to happen.
Yeah.
I real quick want to throw out the only ideas that I have here is I would flip the Cowboys and Eagles. I don't think I'd have the
Okay.
Eagles as the number 5 seed, maybe the 6. Definitely not the 7. You know, they are an 11-6 or better team, but the Cowboys in the regular season are ridiculously good. It's that's why every year you hear it's our year because they're going to go 13-4, 14-3 for no reason besides they're the Cowboys. Eagles still good, like you mentioned. 7-10 probably perfect for the Commanders. Maybe 8-9 if they have a good, a good win somewhere in there. Jaden Daniels is poised for a great game, a great season. Giants likely the 1 or 2 draft pick next year.
Yeah.
Likely horrible this year. I
Top
really
3
want to
almost
see it blow
guaranteed.
up on Daniel Jones. I just he was paid so much money as a quarterback who definitely didn't deserve it. Like it's a team that's been gambling way too much on bad bargaining chips. Like they really need it to blow up in their face and start a full rebuild now
Yeah.
before everything. And you have a pillar in Malik Neighbors. Might as well start now.
Well, we're gonna move on to the NFC West. Kind of a boring division, unfortunately.
Yeah, so we're gonna work from the top down real quick. And you can go over your records right after this. I just want to, real quick, in
Of
order of
course.
what I like. All right. First, the Niners. It's unquestionable. They're still a great team, right? They didn't really lose very many pieces. I know Eric Armstead's gone, a few other names, but that's it. Second, Los Angeles Rams. I think they're a great team. I think they're poised for success this year. Stafford looks great. They added a couple pieces on the offensive line. I like what they did. Behind them is the Arizona Cardinals, who I think have a good year, not a great year, maybe 6-11, 7-10. And the Seattle Seahawks, my hot take, they are going to have a top 5 draft pick this year. They are going to be horrible this year. The Seattle Seahawks are poised for a downfall. This is the Roman Empire that toppled with a very mid Geno Smith getting a bag, and it's going to come crashing down on them this year. The Seattle Seahawks are done for. Maybe if they're lucky, 4-13.
You know what's even crazier than that?
What's that?
The fact that I have the same thing. I also
Oh my
have the Seahawks
God.
going last in the division. Now, I have them tied with the Cardinals record-wise, but the Seahawks go 1-5 in the division. The Cardinals go 2-4, giving the
Yep.
Seahawks the 4th seed in that division. And I don't have them as a top 5 pick, but I have them as a top 7 pick at number 7.
Hey,
So
very fair.
I think we're along the same wavelength. We have the same order in that case. I have the Cardinals, like I said, at 5-12, just like the Seahawks. The 49ers at 12-5. Very good chance it could be higher. They could be a 13-win team, maybe even 14. But I don't know. 12-5 seems safer to me. And then the Rams, very good team, also making the playoffs as that 7th seed at 10 and
Yeah.
7. And we're gonna move on to the last division, your division.
My
And
division.
I'm not going to spoil anything yet because I don't want to rain on your parade. So go ahead, tell us about the NFC
Oh
South.
yeah. Reigning, defending, and still the worst division in football, the NFC South. They stink. They're horrible. But you know, I have a lot of teams being terrible this year, and it's a little interesting with where I have it going. But number one, or I should say number 4 in the division, I have the New Orleans Saints. I think they're going to be horrible this year. I don't think they're going to be anything special. I think they're going to suffer a lot of casualties throughout the season. Maybe not injuries, but poor play, more so being the thing that really hurts them. Derek Carr's not the guy. I think we found that out last year. He showed a couple signs, but he's not the guy. And I think they struggle. 4-13 is what I have them going. And just like the Saints,
I
I
think
have
that's
the
generous.
Panthers going 4-13. I don't discredit it. I think the Saints are a horrible team. Maybe that's personal bias because they've always had the Bucks number for so long, but I really don't like that team and what they have. I really think Kamara is going to be a trade deadline candidate. They've lost so many pieces. Their only real
Marshall
receivers
Lattimore
now are.
could be too.
Yes, they have so many pieces that look like they want to get out of there. I feel like it's just the foundation's starting to crack. Yeah. Second in the division, I have the Atlanta Falcons. I
Okay.
know a lot of people like to say Kirk is going to be absolutely the guy. And he usually is production wise, but the team around him, I just feel like they're not ready. It's a first year head coach, right? A new system that Kirk's walking into, and Bijan's a great running back, so he has that handoff ability that can prove to be successful, but I don't think it'll be great. I think they probably wind up going 4-2 in the division. Good year, not great. I have them finishing 10-7,
Okay.
which leads to a hot take that I'll throw out. I think the Bears are going to sneak over the Falcons for the 7th seed this year. Like I mentioned, of them going about 10-7, Caleb having a
Oh,
good year. I think he sneaks over the Falcons and takes the 7th seed.
okay.
I think the Falcons miss playoffs by a hairline, right?
Okay.
They're right there, but 8th seed in the NFC. And then finally, I have the Bucks going 11-6, which I
Okay.
know is very generous. I know they're my team, but when I was going through their schedule and thinking, I even had them going 12-5 at a time, beating the Eagles as their one team. And then I thought about it and I was like, you know what? I'm really digging my bias into this one. So I switched it and then I looked back over the schedule one more time. What am I doing that feels like a personal bias? What wins am I giving them? And there's almost none. Like the teams like the Chargers, maybe the Raiders, the Seahawks, teams like that you could
And
argue
those are teams
maybe
you
they
guys can
pull out a
beat.
win here. Yes, so all these teams that you maybe beat, I think they beat. I think the only chance that the Bucks have of falling is if they lose to the Falcons at all. But we've always had their number. Their defense has never been able to put a stop to us. So I don't think that's going to change this year, even with Kirk Cousins. I don't think he's going to change the momentum that much. So 11-6, I have the Bucs taking the 4 seed in the playoffs. I think it's going to be interesting, but still a horrible division in football. So, I mean, what are you going to do?
Okay, so that is our rankings. And really quickly, we're going to touch on the playoffs.
We both can agree Motor City Dan Campbell is going to win the Super Bowl after the performance they put up last year with the run game they have, the receivers they have, everything coming together. Jared Goff gets his bag, you're good enough for Detroit, Jared Goff, like, oh man, I really want to see it.
And the
I
thing
really
is,
want to see it.
The Lions and even the Texans have become somewhat of a bandwagon just because of how good they've become, how quick. But
Yep.
it's not even like the rebuild part has been quick. But
Yeah.
these two franchises have suffered for so long. That is our NFL schedule release predictions. Hopefully it
Ooh, yeah.
all ends up well. We will certainly check into this, but I appreciate you coming on and talking about this for as long as we did. And
Oh yeah.
yeah, but have a great rest of your summer. After this quick commercial, we are going to be doing our 2-minute offense segment, so stay tuned.
Jack, buddy, why are you here?
I don't really understand why I'm here. I got called a delusional fan. I just don't understand why I'm delusional if I think Kirk Cousins had the best mustache in the league.
Well, Jack, buddy, I don't want to be the one to tell you this, but I don't think anybody looks cool in handlebars.
But they're back, man. They're back.
They're not. They're not. Sometimes you just got to face the hard truth. It's right there in front of you. All these people, they're calling you delusional, but sometimes you got to worry about, am I projecting? Is it me? And in this
Let me
case,
tell you something, bud. It could never be me. Anything I say is factual and truth, and that's why the Vikings are going 16-1 this year.
Organization, you have to look at your roster and say, I've had Kirk Thuggins for 6 years. Maybe it's time to move on.
There is no moving on from Kirk Thuggins and Justin Jefferson.
Do you think that maybe this all started just because of a little disappointment?
Nothing has started. This is how I live, and I am not delusional.
All right, and we are back. I'm joined by Luca Costa making his return to hitting the fields, and he's going to be talking about the NBA today for 2-minute offense. So first, who's advanced? I hope your summer is going good, but who's advanced? Any big storylines? You have 2 minutes starting now.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the biggest storylines regarding the whole NBA playoffs right now is the Indiana Pacers. After the NBA standings, absolutely not a single person voted them to win. 16 people voted, and all 16 people voted for the New York Knicks to take it in 4. Some of them even took it in 5, 6, 7 games. And then all of a sudden, Tyrese Haliburton and Pascal Siakam, the midseason acquisition, really showing his worth right now. He's one of the most confident players in the NBA in the middle of the floor. Good mid-range job. He's also just good at getting to the basket post up. But yeah, Jalen Brunson fractures him in Game 7. Even though OG and Josh Hart do return finally, and arguably if they return earlier in the series, they very well do win that series. But yeah, man, they go ahead they return home to Indiana in Game 6, of course, and win. And the home team won every single game in this series except for Game 7. I was actually lucky enough to go to Game 6 and be in Gamebridge and see the energy. So
Wow.
It was pretty lit. So yeah, it was super awesome seeing those guys in person. And I could just say those Indiana fans do love their basketball. So Hoosiers are kind of up right now, even though they just lost to the New York to the Boston Celtics in Game 1. But it is what it is. They arguably should have won. Reggie Miller choke job, but we're not going to get into it. That's not there. But yeah, and then of course we go over to the West. I can't say the exact words, but bringyourbutt.com. Anthony Edwards said it himself, trying to tell Charles Barkley to bring himself to Minnesota after saying he hasn't been there in over 20 years. Minnesota Timberwolves absolutely get the job done against the defending champion New York Nuggets after being away from home and trailing by as much as 20 points in the third quarter. if that's not showing adversity, if that just doesn't show the type of dog that Anthony Edwards has as him, I don't understand what else you guys have to see. After all, he did come from Georgia. Georgia saved the Bulldogs. You know what I'm saying? So it really
Of
just
course.
it's just showing exactly what he's got going on. So yeah, the Minnesota Timberwolves are playing absolutely great basketball right now. Game 1 today of the Mavs versus Timberwolves versus Luka Doncic, who snubbed out the win over the Oklahoma City Thunder in Game 6. They were at home. Oklahoma City played a really great game. SGA had a very questionable call. So yeah, it was just absolutely great stuff going on in the West right now. So we got 2 good series.
Time. Great job. Yeah, that
Really.
that was amazing. I feel like
It's a
I'm
2-minute
caught
drill
up.
time.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to the game tonight. We will know the winner when this episode drops tomorrow.
Absolutely.
And yeah, thank you so much for coming on. Hope to see you some more and have a great rest of your summer, great rest of your
Of course,
day.
man, I'll be
Okay.
back. Sure, don't worry.
Thank you. All right, and now I'm joined by Andrew Montana. He's going to be talking about the WNBA. A lot has happened since we last talked about them for opening night. I'm going to give you 2 minutes. I hope you're doing good.
Mhm.
All right, so tell me everything about opening weekend. Give me an update on the standings, any big headlines. Your 2 minutes starts right now.
Yeah, for sure. So probably the biggest thing that stands out with respect to standings is the fact that the Indiana Fever are dead bottom of the W with a record of 0-4. Kind of on the other side of that coin, you've got the New York Liberty at the tippity top with a 4-0 record, undefeated. Same thing with the Connecticut Sun. Now, interestingly enough, between Connecticut and Indiana, you had that matchup between those two teams not too long ago, maybe just a couple nights ago, where Caitlin Clark hit a deep three, and it just didn't end it like it ended up not mattering because Indiana couldn't prevail, but it was almost that kind of get you into the win column as well as give Connecticut its first loss. But that's probably been one of the bigger headlines. Yeah, I mean, overall, out of the standings, something that kind of sticks out to me is the fact that Minnesota is undefeated as well as leading all of the I believe points, assists, rebounds, steals, and blocks and turnovers for team stats. So that's something huge to look out for. I think that's
Oh,
something Minnesota could 100% capitalize on as well.
okay. Minnesota basketball on top, as we know, as we just heard from Luca about the Timberwolves.
That's
Um,
such an unfortunate fact, but yeah.
it really is. Um, how about the game tonight?
Yeah, so tonight we're going to be looking at the aforementioned Indiana Fever taking on the Seattle Storm, who are favorited minus 250 odds, with Indiana getting plus 205, so heavy underdogs there for the Fever. I'm going to be going for the Fever, however, and I'm going to be taking that solely based off of Seattle's injuries. You've got Nika Mo, the UConn guard, who infamously had held Caitlin Clark to just 21, 9, and 7 in the Final Four, I believe early April. So there's that on top of Seattle's Nneka Ogwumike, who is hurt, and she is the second most efficient WNBA player as of now with 60% shooting from the field. That's going to impact them a lot. I think more so the latter one, especially because of the fact that, Seattle is more so defensive driven, so any help on offense could definitely help. But at this point, I think Indiana's like struggling offense there's still promise there. I think that's gonna kind of overtake in this game.
All right. We went slightly over on time, but you gave us the rundown. I feel caught up for sure and excited for the game tonight. Thank you
Mhm.
so much and have a great rest of your summer.
Thank you so much, Nick. You too. You take care.
Thank you. All right. Frankie Noble is joining us now to talk about the NHL. A lot has happened as we are now in the conference finals stage. I hope your summer is going good from the last time we saw you, and you're going to have 2 minutes to tell us everything new, starting now.
Okay, so we're finally at the conference finals, which I think, yes, Stanley Cup finals pretty exciting, but I think conference finals just as exciting because there are these four teams that are just pushing to get to the show. I'm gonna start with the Western Conference where we have Dallas versus Edmonton. I think it'll be a really exciting series. If I had a choice, I would say Dallas is gonna take it in probably 5. I think Edmonton's kind of out of gas right now because they just went to 7 with the Canucks, and the Canucks gave them a run for their money with a rookie goalie. So I don't really know how they're going to produce. They do have Connor McDavid and they have Leon Draisaitl. However, I think Dallas has the better overall team. They have an up on goaltending with the advantage of Andre over Skinner. And then, yeah, Edmonton has those two players, but Dallas also has Ben, Sagan, Wyatt Johnston, Robertson, all these guys. as well as Ben and like Joe Pavelski, who are fighting for that Stanley Cup. They haven't won it. They're on the older end. They know this might be their last chance. I really think they're going to fight hard to try and get into that spot. And then we have the Eastern Conference, which I think is going to be arguably the best matchup of the playoffs so far. We have the Rangers and we have the Panthers. They are two of the most stacked teams, and I think they're very equal in what they have in their forwards, in their defense, and they have two of the best goalies right now. Like, that's not even arguable. That is just facts. Like, you have two Russian goalies, Igor Shesterkin and Sergei Bobrovsky, both amazing, amazing goalies, two of the best performances we've seen in the playoffs so far. And then with the forwards, you have Matthew Tkachuk on the Panthers, and then you have like Vincent Trocheck and Panarin on the Rangers, but then you have Barkov. Like, you have all these pairings that it's going to be really, really tough. And people say that the Panthers can bully the other teams because they have this rat motto now that they're the rats of the playoffs of the NHL. And I think it's awesome. But they do try to bully these teams. And I think you're going to have a tough time with that because you have guys like Jacob Trouba and Matt Rempe on the other team. So I think it'll be really exciting. If I had to choose, I'm going to say Panthers in 7.
All right. All right. So that match is going to 7. That'll be surely one of the best, like you mentioned. You did great. Think we finished at like 2 minutes, 2 seconds or something like that.
There you go.
Fantastic job as always. When does this round start? Just really quickly.
Panthers start tonight. Panthers and Rangers starts
Oh,
tonight. I'm shaking my boots right now.
okay.
And then the Western Conference with Dallas and Edmonton starts tomorrow. So
Okay.
can't get enough hockey this week. It's gonna be back and forth.
I'll be locked in for sure.
Locked
Um,
in.
yeah, absolutely. Again, thank you as always. Have a great rest of your summer. Yeah,
Appreciate it. You
thank
too.
you. And now we have Daniel Valdez. He's going to be talking about the UFL. It's been a long time since that was last talked about at Hitting the Field on Main Show. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes. You're going to give me an update on the standings, any big stories that have come. I know the playoffs are rapidly approaching. So give us the rundown. Your 2 minutes starts now.
Yeah, so when we first talked about it, we were first talking about week one. The only game that we actually predicted correctly was Birmingham against Arlington. Birmingham dominated, but since then, the UFL has proven to be a very fun league, especially when it comes to special teams, which no one ever expected. And wrapping up to the end of the season, we finally know who are going to be our 4 teams playing in each respective conference championships. In the USFL, we got Birmingham against Michigan. Birmingham is the best team in the league. They are currently 8-0, 15-game winning streak since both leagues were separated. And Michigan, they came out of a blue, especially after week one, with their kicker who amazingly drilled a 63-yard field goal, not just once, but twice, and continues to do long field goals. So what I predict
Send him
for
to the
this game,
league.
yeah, I know, right? This league is proving to be potentially a mainstay for future years. So I do think Birmingham will win this game, but Michigan does have a chance to bring it close. And if they keep it close, all they need to do, they need to get into field goal range. And then from there, they could potentially win it. While in the other division, the XFL, not as good as Birmingham, but they still have themselves a pretty good spot. Their championship game is, or at least their division championship, is St. Louis against San Antonio. They're both currently 6-2 the season. They both have done really well so far, beating like top teams like, of course, Michigan and DC, and also the previous XFL champion Arlington. Not as impressive field goals, but still St. Louis 61-yard field goal. I believe that St. Louis will win this game, and then I believe the XFL championship will be St. Louis against Birmingham.
Okay. All right. You did amazing with your timing. I remember when we talked about it on Main Show, you and I was all on the Birmingham train, and I'm happy to see that that panned out. However, I was a huge Matt Corral fan, and I know that he's not the starter, which is quite unfortunate for him. But finally, we have Edgar. He's going to be talking about the MLB.
Oh, look at that. Did you
Wow.
see that?
All right.
Whoa.
Really happy. A lot has been happening in the MLB. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to talk about it and,
Let's do it.
give us an update on the standings, any huge stories. And yeah, your 2 minutes are going to start right now.
Perfect. So I'm going to start with the good news. I'll leave the bad news for last. We'll start with what's good in the MLB so far. So my New York Yankees ripping it up in the AL East. The best AL record right now, 8 wins in the last 10 games. We are flying high. Now, the only team that's really doing much better than us is, of course, the Philadelphia Phillies. They are 35-14 right now, the best in the majors. They have Alec Baum just hitting 330 at the moment. Unbelievable. Up to 42 runs batted in already. Brian Stott leads the team with 12 stolen bases, 29 ribbies, just incredible numbers again. And then Ranger Suarez as a pitcher for the Phillies doing amazing, 8-0, undefeated record. So those are the 3 pillars for the Phillies. For the Yankees, it's the same. Judge, Stanton, Soto ripping it up so far. And then, of course, I have to touch on Paul Skeens, called up just recently for the Pirates. And in just his second start, struck out the first 7 batters against the Chicago Cubs. Unreal. And then some honorable mentions. Luis Hill, of course, also of the Yankees, 5-1. He got 14 strikeouts in 6 innings against the White Sox, which we will get to later. And I had to throw in Rafael Devers as well. He hit 6 home runs in a home run in 6 straight games. So he broke the Red Sox record for that, which is incredible. So now we go over to the bad, which teams are struggling. The Blue Jays, they're hitting 229 collectively. They are last in the AL East. Terrible
Jeez.
May so far. The
Wow.
White Sox, the worst team in baseball, 14-34. They've been swept 7 times and have the worst run differential. Right now it's at -101. I mean, that's just not good enough. The Reds, yes, they have Ellie De La Cruz, but the rest of the team hitting 217 so far in May. Not good. And then honorable mentions, Houston Astros started the season 12-24. I had to mention that we swept them the first series of the season. And the Oakland Athletics, 20-30. Last season was dismal. This season they have Mason Miller, who's their electric closer, frequently and consistently throws his fastball 101, 103. But yeah, that's the really only hope at the moment. So there's a quick MLB wrap up there.
All right. Thank you very much. You went slightly over, but no worries.
That work?
You
We good?
were filling us in. Killed it as always. And
Appreciate it, man.
yeah, that's gonna be all for episode 3 of HTF Off Season. Please join us next week as we will have another amazing show for you. Have a great rest of your guys' day, and we'll see you next time.